Empaths, with little to no friends, usually have these common traits. Most people look at someone with very few friends and immediately assume something is wrong. They assume the person is antisocial, disconnected, awkward, or somehow unable to build relationships. But what if the opposite is true? What if, in many cases, the person standing alone is not disconnected from people at all? What if they are connected too deeply? Some individuals walk through life with a sensitivity that most people never fully understand. They notice shifts in tone before words are spoken. They sense discomfort behind a smile. They can feel tension in a room before anyone else recognizes it. They pick up on emotions that are never verbally expressed. Whether you call them highly sensitive people, deep observers, or empaths, these individuals often experience the world differently. One of the most common misconceptions about empaths is that they should naturally have large social circles. After all, if they understand people so well, shouldn't relationships come easily? The reality is often the exact opposite. Many empaths have very few close friends, and some have none at all. Not because they lack the ability to connect, but because connection means something different to them. The first trait is that they value depth over volume. Most social environments reward quantity: more contacts, more followers, more invitations, more conversations. But empaths often find superficial interaction exhausting. Small talk feels like reading the cover of a book over and over again without ever opening it. They crave authenticity. They want to know what motivates a person, what they fear, what they dream about, what keeps them awake at night. Because of this, they may reject dozens of shallow connections in exchange for one meaningful relationship. The second trait is that they become emotionally overwhelmed by constant social exposure. Every interaction carries information. Most people filter that information automatically. Empaths often absorb it. They notice frustration, insecurity, excitement, resentment, anxiety, and sadness all at once. Imagine walking into a room and unconsciously collecting emotional signals from everyone present. Over time, that creates fatigue. What looks like isolation from the outside may actually be recovery from emotional overload. Another common trait is that they have an unusually strong sense of intuition. They may not always explain it logically. They simply know when something feels wrong. They sense inconsistencies. They notice when words and behaviors do not match. Because of this, they often struggle to maintain relationships built on appearances. They find it difficult to ignore dishonesty, manipulation, or hidden motives. While others may overlook red flags for years, empaths frequently detect them early. This ability protects them, but it also reduces the number of people they allow into their inner world. Many empaths also carry an intense desire to help others. At first glance, that sounds positive, and often it is. But there is a hidden challenge. When you naturally understand people's pain, you may attract individuals who want relief without growth. You become the listener, the counselor, the emotional support system. Over time, some empaths discover that many relationships have become one-sided. They give energy without receiving it. They support without being supported. Eventually, they pull back, not because they dislike people, but because they have learned the cost of giving too much. Another trait is that they are highly selective about trust. This selectiveness is often misunderstood. Some people call it guardedness, others call it distance. But trust is valuable to an empath because they feel the impact of betrayal deeply. When they open up, they do so completely. They invest emotionally. They care sincerely. As a result, they do not hand out trust casually. They would rather remain alone than surround themselves with people who do not respect their boundaries. Empaths are also often observers before participants. While others rush to speak, they listen. While others compete for attention, they study the environment. They watch body language. They notice emotional patterns. They pay attention to what is not being said. This habit can make them appear quiet or reserved, but internally, they are processing enormous amounts of information. Their silence is not emptiness, it is awareness. Another characteristic is their intolerance for unnecessary drama. Many social groups are held together by gossip, conflict, competition, and constant emotional turbulence. Empaths usually find these environments draining. They do not enjoy navigating endless power struggles. They do not seek validation through conflict. When surrounded by chaos, they often choose distance. To outsiders, it may look like withdrawal. To the empath, it feels like self-preservation. Perhaps one of the most important traits is that they are comfortable asking difficult questions about themselves. Many people spend years avoiding self-reflection. Empaths often move toward it. They analyze their motives, examine their emotions, and challenge their own assumptions. This journey can create growth, but it can also create separation. As they evolve, they may discover that some relationships were based on versions of themselves that no longer exist. The result is a smaller social circle, but often a more authentic life. There is also a quiet strength that many people overlook. Society often celebrates loud confidence, visible success, and constant activity. Yet empaths frequently develop a different kind of strength, the strength to sit with discomfort, the strength to understand without judgment, the strength to remain compassionate in a world that often rewards indifference. These qualities do not always attract crowds, but they create profound impact. If you are someone who has very few friends, it may be worth asking yourself a different question. Instead of asking, "Why am I alone?" ask, "What kind of connection am I truly looking for?" Sometimes loneliness comes from isolation, but sometimes solitude comes from refusing to settle for relationships that lack sincerity, trust, and mutual respect. The truth is that having fewer friends is not automatically a problem. The quality of your relationships matters far more than the quantity. One genuine connection can provide more meaning than 100 superficial interactions. One person who understands you can outweigh an entire crowd that only knows your surface. Empaths often walk a path that others misunderstand. Their sensitivity is mistaken for weakness. Their selectiveness is mistaken for arrogance. Their solitude is mistaken for loneliness. Yet beneath these assumptions is a person who simply experiences the world with unusual depth. And that depth changes everything, because when you feel deeply, you choose carefully. When you understand people deeply, you trust carefully. When you care deeply, you give carefully. And when you finally find people who appreciate your authenticity, your loyalty, and your heart, you discover something remarkable. The goal was never to collect friends. The goal was to find real human connection. And for an empath, that has always been enough. The world often teaches people to fear being alone. From an early age, we are told that popularity equals value, that being surrounded by people is proof of success, and that a large social circle is evidence of a fulfilling life. But empaths frequently learn a very different lesson. They discover that a crowded room can feel lonely when genuine understanding is absent. They learn that being accepted by everyone often requires sacrificing pieces of themselves. And they realize that fitting in is not the same thing as belonging. One of the most overlooked traits of empaths with very few friends is their refusal to wear masks for long periods of time. Most social systems operate on unspoken rules. People learn what to say, how to behave, and which parts of themselves to reveal in order to gain approval. Empaths can play that game when necessary, but it drains them. Pretending to be someone else requires constant emotional energy. Eventually, they reach a point where authenticity becomes more important than acceptance. This creates an interesting challenge. The more authentic an empath becomes, the smaller their social circle may grow, not because they are becoming less likable, but because they are becoming less willing to participate in relationships that depend on performance. Some people are comfortable connecting with a carefully crafted image. Far fewer are prepared to connect with complete honesty. Another common trait is that empaths often feel responsible for emotions that do not belong to them. They walk into situations and instinctively begin solving problems that nobody asked them to solve. They absorb tension, they carry burdens, they attempt to restore harmony. For years, they may operate under the belief that helping everyone is their purpose. Then one day they discover a powerful truth. Not every problem is theirs to fix. Not every pain is theirs to carry. Not every battle is theirs to fight. This realization changes everything. As they begin establishing boundaries, many relationships disappear. Some people were connected to the empath only because of what they received from them. Once unlimited emotional access is no longer available, those relationships often fade away. While painful, this process reveals who truly values the empath as a person and who merely valued the service they provided. Empaths also tend to have unusually high standards for emotional integrity. They pay attention to consistency. They notice patterns. They watch how people behave when nobody is watching. They care less about impressive words and more about aligned actions. This means they are rarely impressed by charm alone. Charm can attract attention. Character earns trust. Empaths know the difference. Because they focus on authenticity rather than appearance, they sometimes feel disconnected from cultures obsessed with status, image, and validation. They may watch people compete for attention and wonder why so much energy is spent maintaining appearances. They are more interested in substance than spectacle, more interested in truth than performance, more interested in connection than recognition. Another trait that often emerges is a deep appreciation for solitude. Many people mistake solitude for loneliness, but they are not the same thing. Loneliness is the pain of disconnection. Solitude is the peace of self-connection. Empaths frequently discover that time alone allows them to reset emotionally, think clearly, and reconnect with their own needs. In solitude, they hear their own thoughts instead of everyone else's expectations. In solitude, they reconnect with their values. In solitude, they recover parts of themselves that were lost while trying to help everyone around them. This is why many empaths stop chasing constant social activity. They begin understanding that being alone is not a punishment. Sometimes it is a gift. A fascinating characteristic of highly empathetic individuals is their ability to detect emotional contradictions. Someone may say they are happy while radiating frustration. Someone may claim confidence while displaying insecurity through subtle behaviors. Someone may speak about loyalty while consistently acting in self-interest. Most people focus on words. Empaths focus on congruence. They watch for alignment between thoughts, emotions, words, and actions. When that alignment is missing, something feels off. Even if they cannot immediately explain it, they sense it. This sensitivity often leads them to distance themselves from relationships that seem unstable or deceptive. Unfortunately, this can make them appear selective, distant, or difficult to know. The reality is much simpler. They are protecting their peace. As empaths mature, they also become increasingly aware of energy exchanges. Every conversation leaves an emotional residue. Every relationship influences mental clarity. Every environment affects emotional balance. They start asking questions that many people never consider. Who leaves me feeling inspired? Who leaves me feeling drained? Who respects my boundaries? Who only contacts me when they need something? Who celebrates my success? Who becomes uncomfortable when I grow? The answers to these questions reshape their social world. One reason empaths often have fewer friends is that they become less interested in maintaining relationships out of obligation. They no longer believe that history alone justifies connection. Just because someone has been in your life for years does not automatically mean they belong in your future. Growth sometimes requires difficult decisions. Growth requires honesty. Honesty requires courage. And courage often requires standing alone before finding the right people. This period can feel uncomfortable. There may be moments when the empath questions their choices. There may be days when solitude feels heavier than expected. There may be nights when they wonder if life would be easier if they simply lowered their standards and accepted relationships that no longer align with who they are. But every meaningful transformation includes a season of uncertainty. The caterpillar disappears before the butterfly emerges. The seed breaks before the tree appears. The old identity falls away before the new one takes shape. Empaths are no different. As they continue growing, they begin attracting different kinds of people. Not people who seek rescue, not people who seek constant validation, not people who drain every emotional resource available. Instead, they attract individuals who value honesty. Individuals who communicate clearly, individuals who respect boundaries, individuals who give as much as they receive, individuals who understand that healthy relationships are partnerships, not emotional transactions. These connections may be rare, but they are powerful. And this is where many empaths discover one of life's greatest lessons. The purpose of sensitivity was never to make you popular. The purpose of sensitivity was to help you recognize what is real. The purpose of intuition was never to help you control people. It was meant to help you understand them. The purpose of solitude was never to isolate you. It was meant to strengthen your relationship with yourself. And the purpose of having fewer friends was never to diminish your life. Sometimes it was preparing you to recognize the extraordinary value of genuine connection when it finally arrives. Because in a world filled with noise, authenticity becomes rare. In a world filled with performance, sincerity becomes priceless. In a world filled with endless acquaintances, true friendship becomes one of the most valuable things a human being can experience. And empaths, perhaps more than anyone else, understand the difference. They know that 1,000 casual conversations cannot replace one meaningful one. They know that constant attention cannot replace genuine understanding. They know that being seen is not the same thing as being known. And because they know this, they continue searching, not for more people, but for the right people. The people who value honesty over image, the people who value character over status, the people who value depth over appearances, the people who recognize that real connection begins where masks end. And when those people finally enter an empath's life, the years of waiting suddenly make sense, because some treasures are valuable precisely because they are rare. There is another characteristic that often appears in empaths who keep their circle small. They spend a great deal of time thinking about meaning. While many people focus on what is happening, empaths are often focused on why it is happening. They are not satisfied with surface-level explanations. They want to understand motivations, patterns, and deeper truths. They examine conversations long after they end. They replay moments in their minds, searching for lessons hidden beneath the obvious. This tendency can make them seem distant at times. While everyone else is reacting to events, the empath is studying them. While others are focused on immediate outcomes, the empath is focused on long-term consequences. They see connections that many people miss. They recognize recurring behaviors. They notice cycles repeating themselves across years, relationships, and environments. Because of this awareness, they often become highly protective of their time. They understand something that many people learn only after years of disappointment. Time is life. Every hour invested in the wrong relationship is an hour that cannot be recovered. Every ounce of emotional energy spent on constant chaos is energy unavailable for growth, creativity, purpose, and peace. This realization changes the way they interact with the world. They stop saying yes to everything. They stop attending every gathering. They stop chasing approval. They stop trying to convince people to understand them. Instead, they begin focusing on alignment. Does this relationship align with my values? Does this environment align with my goals? Does this conversation align with the person I want to become? These questions become powerful filters.